All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Today's shir should be Lil Nishmas Menachem ben Yisrael Yaakov and Refuah Shlem Meshulam ben Sar Rachel. Yes, and Rechama Rivka Bas Rachel. Got it right? Good. Okay. Perek Daled, what we're in the middle of right now, is a very, very, very big perek. And we started off the perek with 7 categories where we need to apply Bitachon in our life. We just finished yesterday the third of the first 7, the first 3 of the 7. So we was talking about where the first 3 pertain to one's well-being, from health, income, and relationship. We went through those 3 categories. Today, the 4th category that we're going to touch on, we're going to start on today, is where you apply Bitachon to one's mitzvos. And this is personal mitzvos. Personal mitzvos, you're going to see over here what it means. It doesn't mean mitzvos that you do like tzedakah. It means things that you do for yourself. Now, let's talk about what personal mitzvos are, and we're going to start off this subject. Uveferish ha'chelik haravi, the following explanation of this, of the 4th of the categories, is binyonei choves halvavos v'havarim sha'adam misyached b'saralasam v'niskam, which consists of spiritual duties of the heart and of the body that directly benefit or harm only the person himself. Meaning, it refers to mitzvahs that we do or averas that we do that doesn't affect anyone else. And he gives an explanation, he gives examples over here. The person himself benefits from performing these mitzvahs and loses from transgressing on them, but his actions do not directly impact anyone else. However, it does say that all mitzvos, when we do mitzvos, we do elevate the entire Klal Yisrael. So that we should understand that. Now, he gives examples of what these mitzvahs are. This includes personal mitzvahs such as fasting, davening, sitting in a sukkah, living in a sukkah, benching lulav and esrig, tzitzis, ushmiras haShabbos v'meyadim, and observing Shabbos and Yontif. V'himona min ha'averas, and abstaining from committing any kind of sins. So by you not committing any sins is also part of what you fulfill personally as a mitzvah. The chol choves halvavos, and the category also includes all the duties of the heart, which is what? The duties of the heart are a little bit different than duties that you're supposed to do by yourself, because those are actions. Duties of the heart, it gives examples of someone where you fear Hashem is a mitzvah to fear Hashem, and believe that Hashem created the world, not holding any grudges against people, having machshavas ra. Those are things that you are duties of the heart that you're responsible for, and it's not an action that you take, it's just something that you feel and believe in. Rather, the direct benefits and harm are limited to the person himself without impacting other people. Which means if you daven today, great, you get a mitzvah. If you don't daven today, you're not hurting anybody else, only yourself. And the proper manner of placing the reliance and the bitachon on Hashem and these personal duties is what we're going to talk about. And this is what I will explain. And before he gets into that, he says, I'm asking Hashem to please guide me in the right way, that I should be able to explain this with clarity. And he explains over here what that means is, the reason why he wants to explain with clarity is because a big portion of this section has to do with Bechira, and people have to understand that, and they have to be able to decipher of where Bechira and where the reliance on Hashem crosses that line. And so he asks Hashem for a personal tefillah. He asks Hashem that I should please make sure that whatever I say is relayed upon properly and people can understand it. So we'll get into the first part of this. Man's responsibility to choose good over evil. That's what we're going into over here. He explains over here that when you have a choice to do good over evil, if you're going to do a mitzvah, if you're going to do a avera, it's broken up into 3 different actions. He explains, Ki maseh ha'avoida v'ha'avera lo yichtanu la'adam ki im bihi kavet shloisha devarim. It is not possible for a person to perform a mitzvah or an avera without doing these 3 parts. There's 3 parts that are required. Ha'echad, is the habchira beliboy imatzpinai. The first is choosing with one's heart and inner being to either serve Hashem or to do an avera. V'hasheni is the hakavana v'haskama lasis masha b'chabay. The second is intending and resolving to act on what he has chosen to do. Now, it sounds very similar, but he explains over here the difference between those first two. The first one is, Rav Av separates the decision to act into two parts. First one is, he chooses in his conscience, says, I'm going to do a mitzvah. The next thing he does is, he plans on how to go about it. And he gives an example over here. Take, for example, a person who's not from, a Jewish person who's not from, who's considering to do tshuva. First, he thinks about his situation and reaches the conclusion that, you know what, I want to become a Baal Tshuva. That is the first part of his thought. The second part of his choices that also still involves just thinking about it is planning about how he's going to do it. Okay, I'm going to start keeping Shabbos, I'm going to start learning, I'm going to go do some Torah studies, I'm going to get a Torah mate. You know, I'm going to do those kind of things where those are the two decisions that he has to make, and that's how he breaks up those two different parts of it. And the third is applying the effort, actually doing the work. He made the decision to do the mitzvah or avera. He planned on how he's going to go about doing that. Again, no action was taken. And the third one, the action was taken. And so, having chosen and resolved to act in a certain way, the person must set out and actually do it. That's the third part. Now, Chavos Avavos discusses which one of these three parts requires the areas of Bitachon is appropriate. Where do you actually have Bitachon? So he says, now, regarding these steps that are within a person's ability and not beyond his control, namely the first, choosing to do either a mitzvah or an avera, and then intending and resolving to perform the act, trusting in Hashem in these areas, having bitachon in these areas, is a mistake, and is very, very foolish. Why? Because we know Hashem gave everybody bechira. Bechira, we learn from this part, what is bechira? Bechira it seems that is not the action. Bechira is the decision. The mindset that you want to do something, that decision, that is the bechira. But you actually performing the action, mitzvah or avera, that's not the bechira part. The bechira is the part that we want to do. We learned yesterday that when someone is to be punished for something or to gain something because he did a mitzvah and Hashem wants to give him a gift, we know that without Hashem's will, this cannot happen. So the fact is, we can think ill or think great about other people, but we cannot perform on that thought unless Hashem does it. So therefore, Bechira from this explains and understand that it's the decision-making portion of the entire act. So it's the first of the two portions that we learned, this divided into three portions before you do a mitzvah and avera. The first two parts of it is deciding you want to do it and planning on how to do it. It says in Parshas in Devarim, it says Ubecharto b'chayim, that you should choose life. And when he says over here you should choose life, Torah represents that there's two divergent paths. Life is good, which refers to serving Hashem, and then the death is evil, which refers to doing averos. And Hashem over there commands us to choose life, which means to do the avodas Hashem, and only not doing averos. And it is our responsibility, therefore, and not on the basis of relying on Hashem in this area. Again, when you think about doing something, the machshavos ra, the machshavos tovos, those are on you, and that's the bechira you have. How are you going to perform on that? How are you going to act those out? That is totally up to Hashem. So he wants to explain over here. Where do we rely on Hashem? Where does the bitachon rest? The bitachon does not rest in the decision making. It only rests on the action portion of the fulfilling this task. What we learn from this today is when we go out and do a mitzvah, when we decide to do it, and we've learned this, why do we thank somebody when he helps you out is because of his bechira. Well, the takeaway today is, when you sit down in yourself and you start having good thoughts or evil thoughts, don't start telling yourself, no, what do you mean? I have these thoughts because Hashem obviously wants this to happen. You're wrong. Hashem wants something to happen, it will happen. You or not, it's going to happen. The thought process, the beginning of this entire action, good or bad, mitzvah or avera, has to do with you and your bechira only. And therefore, today, when we understand what we're up against, the bitachon that we have is once we decide, here, this is what we're going to do. Hopefully it's a mitzvah. Hopefully we're going to help out people. Hopefully we're going to do Hashem's work. And we're going to daven. Once we decide we're going to go out and do that, we're going to conquer. The bitachon that we have is that Hashem, please help me get through this. This is what it's going to happen. I want this to happen. That's where the bitachon lies. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I really appreciate it, and I love you all.